This video is sponsored by Incogni. Your alarm goes off at 4:30 a.m. You hit the snooze button. 4:40 comes in what feels like seconds. Snooze. 4:50. Get dressed. Grab your bag. If you leave even 20 minutes later, traffic will be unbearable. When you get to the city, you hit the gym, shower, makeup, hair, clothes, drive to work. Clock in at 8. You're finished with everything you need to do by 10. But you get paid by the hour, so you drag it out till lunchtime, playing solitaire in one monitor, reading the news in the other, doing anything you can do to look busy. The boss knows there's not much work to be done, but someone needs to pick up the phone. And a paycheck is a paycheck. Could be worse. You could be a Victorian child working in a coal mine, or a modern child in Congo mining cobalt. It could always be worse. 5 p.m., time to clock out. Once again, traffic is hell. It's almost 6:30 by the time you get home. Even though you didn't do much, you're mentally drained. But at least you're employed, because trying to find something better, more meaningful, or higher paying is nearly impossible in this job market. We measure our value in the world by the work that we do. Most people spend a third of their lives or more at work, making money for someone else. When you meet someone new, one of the first things that comes up in conversation is, what do you do for a living, or where do you work at? At least in much of North America, we are defined by how we make our money. You're a plumber, a doctor, a software engineer, a used car salesman, a project manager, or worst of all, a YouTuber. We take pride in what we do for a living. It's how we all contribute to society. But what happens when your job is basically meaningless? Does the world really need you to fill out spreadsheets for 8+ hours a day? And not to mention, low pay and long hours make it impossible to get ahead. A lot of modern work is just looking busy, doing menial tasks, running out the clock. In service work, it's if you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean. In white-collar work, it's filling out paperwork to get permissions to use the tools you need to do your job, or sitting in drawn-out meetings that could have been an email just because the boss likes to hear himself talk. Not everyone is cut out to do the glamorous work of CEOs, surgeons, movie stars, or pilots. Most of us are just going through the motions. In 16th century Europe, the Protestant Reformation was brought about by thinkers such as Martin Luther and John Calvin. In contrast to the dominant Catholic Church, they believed that salvation was predestined by God before birth. To the Protestants, a sure way to tell that one was going to enter the kingdom of heaven was by being successful in your life on earth. The idea was that as long as you were always working, you were bringing glory to God. It was a sign that it was His will that your soul would be saved. Religion was a huge deal in the late Middle Ages. The church ruled every aspect of life. As the Protestant faith was adopted in countries like England, Germany, and the Netherlands, so was this moral code. Being unproductive was seen as sinful. It's where we get the saying, idle hands are the devil's playthings. These ideas were exported to America with the first English settlers in the original 13 colonies, many of which initially fled England because their ideas were seen as too radical, even for those in their home country. They were called Puritans. They felt that the Reformation did not go far enough, and that people should obey God completely, which led to even stricter ideas around the role of work in life. In the early New England colonies, you were expected to work, or you went hungry. Religion was often the justification, but survival required this. Over time, work was seen as virtue in and of itself. Hard work became your moral duty, even after survival was mostly assured. As America grew, gained independence, and colonized the continent, this moral code never left our culture, especially with the Industrial Revolution and the dominance of capitalism in the modern era. What started as a way to glorify God became a need to prove our worth to those around us. Or maybe we've all been being manipulated for centuries, first by the church and later by those with access to capital. And now it doesn't even stop at work. The system follows you online. Old addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, information about you that you didn't even know existed. Data brokers are all out there gathering this info, quietly cataloging you like you're some product in a warehouse. That's where today's sponsor, Incogni, comes in. They automatically remove your sensitive information from these shady sites, so you don't have to worry about it. Incogni's Unlimited plan even covers sites that aren't part of their automated system, meaning they handle some of the messy stuff where you might have to make a phone call, send an email, track someone down, just so that they don't sell your information. If you find a concerning link with your information on it, you can paste it into their custom removals and Incogni's team will get to work and remove it for you. It's fast, it works, and it's a great way to take back a little bit of control in a system that's been profiting off of us for centuries.
If you want to start cleaning up your digital footprint, use my link and discount code Cities by Diana below, and you can get 60% off an annual plan.
Thanks again to Incogni for helping me keep the lights on. Now, back to the video. As more commoners moved into cities to work in factories, the concept of an hourly wage replaced earlier ways of making a living. Before the advent of modern manufacturing, most folks were farmers and artisans who sold their surplus goods for money or traded the fruits of their labor for what they needed. By the 18th and 19th century, manufacturing jobs often replaced this, with laborers working up to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, paid by the hour. As modern clocks made timekeeping more rigid, your labor no longer tied to your productivity or the value that you created. Instead, it was dependent on the amount of time you spent on the job. Any surplus value beyond your hourly wage was profit extracted by the factory owner, and they made sure you were as productive as possible in the time that you were at work. The roots of the standard 8-hour day we're all familiar with go back as far as 16th century Spain, but in their modern form can be traced to the worldwide organized labor movement, in which industrial workers fought hard for a shorter workday, dividing the 24-hour day into 3 parts: 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, and 8 hours for leisure. In practice, though, factoring in your commute time and chores around the house, leisure and rest took a backseat to work. But it is this linking time to the value of your labor that created the problem of bullshit jobs in the modern era. What was once a hard-fought victory by labor unions is now a relic of a past which no longer exists for most workers in the industrialized world. And ironically, many factories in the global south don't pay by the hour anymore. They pay a piece rate, directly tied to the amount of goods any one worker produces in a day. Here in the West, a great deal of our workforce is employed in office work or service work, and much of that time is spent on downtime, filled with menial tasks and busy work. In the corporate world, even in salaried positions, you're still expected to show up at 8 a.m., sit there and look busy until 5 p.m., and then go home. Countless layers of mid-level management exist simply to justify their own positions, asking individual contributors to fill out reports and activity trackers to show management how much work that they're doing. Almost all of it has no direct impact on the revenue of the business or the work that that company actually does. Have you ever had a manager just stand over your shoulder and ask what you're doing all day? It seems like their job is just to tell their boss what you and your team has been doing all day. It's surveillance. It's basically to keep you in check. Studies have even shown that most office workers only do about 3 to 4 hours of actual work per day. The rest of the time is taken up by meetings, bathroom breaks, casual conversations, and being distracted by pesky managers hovering over them.
We have sort of a problem here. Yeah, you apparently didn't put one of the new cover sheets on your TPS reports.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I forgot.
Yeah. You see, we're putting the cover sheets on all TPS reports now before they go out. Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah.
It's time wasted. But the legacy of the Protestant work ethic lives on. You constantly have to perform productivity, show up early, stay late, look like you're busy, and even if you have nothing to do, find something to do. Make it up if you have to, especially if you're paid by the hour, because going home early means lost wages. And in this economy, with the cost of living crisis, you need every dollar that you can get. So you work a little slower. Stretch out completing that expense report and filling out that activity tracker to make it last the rest of the day, leaving a little for tomorrow so that you have something to do other than play solitaire or surf the internet. Because they've just installed some new tracking software on your computer that takes screenshots of your desktop every few seconds and sends them to your manager. So as long as you look busy, you won't get written up. And often, if you ask your manager for more work, they get offended. They tell you to be more proactive, to find things to do, be curious, be creative, or some other contrived platitude. when in reality, the manager also has basically nothing to do for half the day.
I am a productive worker. I am paid a fair wage for my labor. My commute is therapeutic. My coworkers are my family. Management respects me. I look forward to Monday mornings, chats at the water cooler, lunch with clients, visiting Susan in HR, touching base with Greg in finance, circling back with marketing, optimizing expense reports, pizza parties.
Mr. Snoopy, your digital footprint is concerning. Care to explain your recent posts? If you are unhappy with your salary, maybe you should find employment that is more aligned with your career goals.
Susan, perhaps we could increase revenue if we downsized Mr. Snoopy's role and implemented an AI-first strategy for Q4. The cost savings will allow for greater innovation.
Cross-functional synergy. Real blue sky thinking, Greg. Snoopy, the meme you shared was inappropriate. Greg is not a performative male. After you issue a public apology, today will be your last day.
Here's what posting brainrot on Maine taught me about B2B sales.
At the same time, we have companies pushing to integrate more and more AI into the workplace, whether it's having employees learn to use AI tools to supposedly increase productivity or just outright replacing entry-level workers with AI agents. So a lot of AI was implemented with the promise of automating pointless, monotonous, backbreaking labor. But in practice, there's nothing for the workers it's replacing. It's simply making those who already have money more money and enabling them to pay their workers less and pay less of them. We see tech companies laying off thousands of employees and not so subtly pushing the idea of the 996 work week on those who remain. So what is 996? It was first popularized in China's tech scene. Employees were expected to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days per week as a show of devotion to the mission of the company.
996 work week. I remember my first vacation.
And now it's becoming more and more popular amongst tech companies in Silicon Valley, especially AI startups. Some justify 996 as a short-term thing that people in their 20s and 30s do to get a lot done early on in their career so that they can retire early, given the promise of equity in the company. And if it becomes successful, hopefully it will make them all rich. I see it every day with these little techies.
Hot take, I guess, but I actually think everyone in their 20s should try the 996 lifestyle, and I'm saying this as someone who chose her career path specifically because I wanted a good work-life balance. If you don't know what 996 is, it was a big topic on here a few months ago, but it's basically working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week instead of the typical 9 to 5. And this is definitely not the right working style for everyone, but this is the way to go if you're someone who is always chasing a big dream and is never going to be satisfied with living an average life.
996 culture is officially here. Get ready to grind. This is when you work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. So Ramp, which is a cool company that has corporate credit cards for tech employees, they just published some very interesting data that was looking at card transactions for restaurant, delivery, and takeout by employees in SF. And what they're showing here is the change by day between 2024 and 2025. And the thing that sticks out the most here is excess activity on Saturdays between the hours from noon to midnight. So this is showing that a ton of people are using their Ramp credit cards for meals on Saturdays, which means they're working on Saturdays. So the first one is that this trend is actually new. So they only see this in 2025. They don't see it in 2024, 2023, or other prior years. Interestingly, this trend is also specific to San Francisco. So they also looked at places like New York and they did not see this massive uptick. And then the third thing that they wanted to highlight is that they're saying it's more than just tech because this trend showed up across many sectors in San Francisco. However, I don't really believe this one because basically every company in San Francisco is just a tech company. So get ready to grind because 996 culture is officially here.
They're like, well, we'll work hard now so that we can enjoy it later. Baby girl, it does not work that way. You only live once. Your 20s and 30s are great for early in your career, but you're not going to get much more done working 40 hours a week as you are working 996. What is that? 12 times 6? 72 hours a week? And some people want you to work even more. In reality, this only leads to burnout. poor mental and physical health. And if you work at a company that, God forbid, doesn't make it, you've wasted the prime years of your life behind a desk doing busy work for a company that didn't give a fuck about you. 996 is simply the old factory workday rebranded for the modern era in some slick slogan and startup jargon. It's not good for you. Because whether you're doing a 9-to-5, 5-day work week, or a 996 work week, or anything in between, you don't have enough time in the day for yourself. You spend what little hours that are your own consuming to fill the void. You don't have time to build community or meaningful relationships, or work on hobbies, or travel and see the world, or start your own business, doing something that you're passionate about, or providing a service that the world needs much more than some fucking productivity software, much more than whatever it is you're doing in an office job. All of it makes the system feel rigged against you. And it is. That's not to say that there aren't jobs that need to be done and require a lot of time to do. The medical field, the trades, law, public service, it's all important and often requires people to work long into the night, something that a lot of them are passionate about and care deeply about. But in corporate work, tech, finance, consulting, anything else you can think of, a lot of it is just moving money around, punching numbers into a computer, having meetings, or thinking about ways to create new problems that didn't exist before to make your product the solution to them. It's bullshit. And most of those jobs are pointless and can be done in a lot quicker than 40 hours a week. Rise and grind, let's get this bread! Modern culture glorifies working nonstop. Even if you don't have traditional employment, you've got 1,000 different side hustles. You're expected to devote your life to working every waking hour. Look, I'm a victim of it too. I spend hours pushing out content for an algorithm and platforms that don't care if I eat or starve. I pick up side work and sponsorships whenever I can. And you know what? Somehow, it's better than traditional employment. So I see the allure of the hustle culture life. But it's not easy not knowing where your next paycheck's gonna come from. Every waking hour that you are not doing something to make money is seen as wasted time. If you run a business, this is common. You have to constantly outwork your competition just to stay afloat.
Look, I work weekends, okay? I told you 996, but sometimes there's like opportunities and events that come up on weekends. So like this week, there's a huge pediatrics conference coming to town in Denver, and I'm going to be working the booth Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to be taking people out to dinner. I'm going to be out and about. It's work, but you got to do it no matter what the day of the week is. You cannot have a 9-to-5 culture, okay? Even on weekends when I don't have work to do, if I'm out, I'm always thinking about work, even when I'm socializing or going out to a restaurant, going out to a bar, or whatever the case may be. So just think about the work-life continuum. It really matters. And weekends are an opportunity to be actually more productive in some cases.
And it leads to some pretty concerning things in our culture. The whole morning routine trend that was big earlier this year, where people wake up super early and have this crazy multi-step process for getting ready. The hustle culture podcasters who are all over social media.
You see this Lambo? Do you want it? No, you don't, because you've got a podcast. It ain't gonna buy itself, so stop yapping on the internet and go out and get yourself a real job. This is your new alarm clock. What are you waiting for? Stop the excuses. It's time to grind. Working is the goal. Friends, parents, relationships, don't need them. If you don't own at least 3 apartment complexes by age 17, you've basically failed at life. My cat, that freeloader, I made her get a job as a greeter at Costco. No one eats for free. No excuses. I believe it was Cunty Regirock with a handbag that said, "No one likes epic heroes without epic monsters." It's up to you to be the epic monster. Who cares if people hate you? Run them off the road. You've got work to do. If you're not grinding at least 240 hours a week, don't even bother getting out of bed. You'll know you've won when every single person in your life either leaves or calls you an asshole to your face. Savor it. They just don't know your struggle. Do you ever get tired, stressed, sad, hungry? Too bad. Buckle up, Buttercup, and grind. Don't stop. Tip your landlord at least 35% until you become the landlord. Because as long as you don't own property, he will always be better than you.
The glorification of wealth, you know, those douchebags with the big mansions and Lambos, they're actually just rented to project a successful life. All of it stems from the same roots as the bullshit jobs they fought so hard to get away from. When you devote your entire life to working, especially the prime years of youth, you miss out on so much that the world has to offer. Unfortunately, with rampant inflation, high housing costs, and basically everything being a subscription now, we have no choice but to stay busy nonstop just to put food on the table. And it's exhausting. You can't have hobbies because you're turning them into content to monetize. When I started this channel, I used to play video games on here. Y'all probably remember the whole City Skylines thing. That's where I got my channel name. It got to the point where I didn't even play the game for fun anymore. And I hardly ever play it now. It was always fun to make the content, and I still love making content. But playing that game was always for content that was monetized. All while in the time that I wasn't making content, I was working a full-time 40-hour-per-week job for much of it. Even now, when I travel, the camera's always rolling. Why else would I make a video about Butte, Montana of all places? Because I just happen to be there for unrelated reasons. Being constantly busy with work makes it hard to have a social life or meet romantic partners or have a family. I'm lucky enough now to be able to make time to have a life outside of work. But that was an intentional choice, which definitely caused my income to take a substantial hit. However, some things are much, much more valuable than money. No matter what kind of work you're doing, we have built a society where a person can work 50 hours a week or more and still not afford basic health care. And there's almost no political will from either party to fix it. In fact, both sides of the aisle benefit from it, or more accurately, the oligarchs who bankroll their campaigns. And it's been this way for centuries. What was first justified by religion or devotion to the state is now framed as self-improvement. You don't want to be lazy, do you? You were meant to live a life that is far from average. Or that's what they tell you online. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Either you work a boring, meaningless job with nothing to do that wastes your time, or you hustle every waking hour of your life until you crash and burn and have nothing to show for it beyond those little numbers in your bank account. And even then, you're no closer to actual financial stability than if you would have just worked a corporate job. And now we're being told that AI will free us from the tyranny of bullshit work. But somehow, it looks a lot more like we're just getting replaced. And once they automate as many jobs they can with AI and give us nothing in return, what will happen next? I don't know, chat. I'm just some dumb bitch yapping into an SM7B with some free video software, pushing out content. Some might say we need a revolution, a general strike, or an uprising of the proletariat, or they might try to push whatever other ideology they have as the silver bullet to fix all of this. I have my own opinions on this, but they're not important. What are little things that we can do in the here and now? I encourage you all to not lose sight of what's important. Take time for yourself. Stay up late dancing at a nightclub, call up a friend, take a walk in nature, or just do something that isn't tied to making someone else a profit. I'm fucking serious. Do not let this culture burn you out. And I'm trying not to either. So, flip that, chat.